Carucci, and I'm here today with Daniel Radcliffe, who has just come on board for the Trevor project. Welcome, Daniel.
Thank you very much.
Tell me what brought you onto the project.
Well, to be honest, one of the things that was in my life growing up, my parents were had been actors and actresses and were involved in the film and theatre industry, and consequently I grew up knowing a lot of gay men, and it was just never something that even I thought twice about, that some men were gay and some weren't. It was just a thing. And then I went to school, and for the first time I sort of started encountering other boys, I suppose using words like puff and things like that in England, as or homo and stuff. And I suddenly came across homophobia for the first time and had never encountered it before, and it shocked me. I remember it very well. And so I think, it's always been something that I have been passionate about. I've always hated anybody who is not tolerant of gay men or lesbians or bisexual or anything. And I'm in a very fortunate position where I can actually help or do something about it. I mean, I'm in a very fortunate position where I can help something like the Trevor Project.
Now, what did you ever, growing up, I know Trevor also deals with bullying and things like that, and I mean that's essentially to prevent teenage suicide.
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced growing up any sort of discrimination or
against me?
Against for any reason?
Well, I would describe myself as being gently eccentric, anyway. And slightly, I'm slightly different just as a person, just because I've had a very different set of influences growing up than anybody else of my peer group did, because I was going to two schools that were kind of, my first two schools were sort of that whiter than white, absolute middle class, and I think, well, at my second school, I think I'm right in saying that I was one of only 2 or 3 boys in my class whose parents were not either bankers, lawyers, stockbrokers, or something, or stuff like that. And so consequently I didn't have, and also, although I grew up in very, very privileged, background, middle class English life, that wasn't so always my parents. My mum had, was fairly well set, but my dad grew up in a working class council estate in Northern Ireland, so it's not like so I've always been aware that there are people who, and I've always felt very lucky to have had the life that I've had. But so, in terms of discrimination, it wasn't discrimination about anything. I was picked on occasionally, just because probably I was slightly odd or less. But I also had lots of very good friends at school. But there were some kids that didn't like me, and that was fine. But I never had to cope with anything serious about my religion or sexual orientation or anything like that. I was always, very fortunate that I didn't have to cope with any of that.
How did you first find out about Trevor?
Sorry. Well, when I was over here doing Equus, we got talking to. Well, I'd known kind of quite a few gay guys over here, and I just sort of was very warmly accepted by the gay community of New York, and made a lot of very, very good friends. And it was sort of through them that I started finding out more and more about the Trevor Project and what it did. And it just immediately became something that we wanted to be involved in.
Now tell me a little bit about the PSA. Can you describe what it is that we're going to see?
It's very straightforward, really. It's just me saying, giving the phone number and the address, and telling people what the Trevor Project, the website address, right, and telling people what the Trevor Project is and what it does. And it is a 24-hour helpline. And for anybody gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender or questioning youth to call, and it is 24 hours a day. And I've met a lot of the call centre workers here. I mean, I've only met 3 of them, but if the other guys that work here are as admirable and impressive and committed as these three people are, then it is an amazing service. It's an amazing thing. I'm so glad. And as I was talking to Megan, one of the call centre workers, and she said, I hate the fact that this has to exist, but I'm so glad that it does. And that's absolutely right. It's horrible that something like this has to even, that these problems are in the world, but if you are going through them, the Trevor Project will help. And also, there's two other ways that you're actually going to be able to get involved with the Trevor Project, which is there is Trevor Space online now, which is like their version of MySpace, obviously, but totally unconnected to that. It is you know, of itself. Nobody else can see it. Nobody else can look onto it. So it's still confidential if you want it to be. And also there's the Trevor iPhone application, which is going to be launched soon. I'm not sure if it's out there yet, but it will be soon. And all of these things are very, very valuable and very important, and they're going to hopefully help a lot of people. And also, and the PSA ends with what is the motto of the Trevor Project, which is "Be proud of who you are." And the fact that anyone might think of themselves as having less worth or less value as a human being, or might have been forced to think that by their community, by their family, by their, you know, is abhorrent to me. But it is a reality for some people, and so they need to know that they are not alone, that people have gone through this before and will go through it again, and that it is not always going to be easy, but that they should be absolutely so proud of who they are and embrace the difference.
Have you taken any calls, or do you plan on taking any calls?
It's 40 hours of training before you can take a call. I mean, I have to say, I was sitting there when I was looking at I was lucky enough to be shown some call reports of some of the sort of the lighter calls, and I was sitting there going, I would love to do, but it is a lot of training, and also it's a commitment. You know, you make a year commitment, and I wouldn't at this stage be able to commit fully, but I mean, I would at some point actually love to, yeah.
And what is your role in Trevor? I mean, obviously more than just the PSA.
I mean, at the moment it is the PSA, and you know, the fact that I'm obviously financially involved as well, and very proud to be so. But particularly after visiting today, I want it to be the start of a very long relationship that I have with the Trevor Project, because having seen the work they do here, I mean, it is so incredible and life affirming, and also so important, and it's something that's also overlooked. And also I think it's important actually for somebody from a big commercial movie series like Harry Potter or something like that, and particularly as I'm not gay or bisexual or transgender or lesbian, you know, I mean, I think the fact that I'm straight makes not a difference, but just the fact that, you know, it's the fact that it shows that actually straight people are incredibly interested and care a lot about this as well, and that you don't just have to be gay to take an interest. You know, I mean, like, this is, for me, this is the thing I'm probably most passionate about of many of the causes that, like, I mean, I have a few very specific charities that I work with, but I'm just as passionate about this one as I am about any of the others, and it's a pleasure to be involved in.
Well, Daniel,
privilege.
Thank you very much.